and welcome to Ewe Sew You. My name's Zoe and this is my channel all about the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, I spin on a spindle, I dabble in weaving from time to time, and anything else that takes my crafty fancy. But today we're taking a look at the projects I've been working on since June, so grab a brew, put your feet up and let's get started. So welcome back to any returning viewers, and to any new viewers a very warm welcome to you. I haven't done a roundup video like this for a few months because I've been a little bit tied up. Regular viewers will know I've been working on stuff for my wedding, which was at the end of July, so that pretty much took up June, July, and now we're at the end of August. So yeah, so we're doing a bit of a roundup of everything that's been going on. So let's get started with what I am wearing, and this is the Tolster tee, sort of. The Tolster is a pattern by Ewe Sew You. Oh, what's her name? I'll put it on the screen because my mind's just gone completely blank. So I took that pattern and I've had to adjust the numbers because my gauge was way off, and making gauge with this particular yarn wouldn't have worked. The fabric just wouldn't have looked right, being too open. So I've used Holst Coast, which a wool and cotton blend. It's a Danish yarn. It delivers to the UK really, really quickly, and I've worked a stripe pattern with slip stitches at the colour change. It's a nice tee. It's not overly hot until the weather gets like super hot, so I'll probably be taking it off later on because the sun is beating through my French windows at the moment. I've got the curtains drawn to keep the heat out of it. But we'll see how long they last. So yeah, so it's a nice soft yarn. The t-shirt has not yet been blocked, but it has been worn a few times. I finished this project on my honeymoon. There was a knitting slot set aside every morning for a knit and natter on the ship. I did go once. I wasn't always up in time and ready and organised in time for it on all the sea days. But yeah, so I did get to show with this off to other knitters on the ship and to various people that we were chatting with, to the point where the first time I wore it, having finished it, people were like, "Oh, you finished it? It looks good." So yeah, so that was nice. So yeah, the Tolster tee is going to get a lot of sort of springtime wear and probably early autumn wear, and British summer being British summer, it will get worn during the summer as well. Just not when we're in the middle of a heat wave. I think we're heading for a mini heat wave according to the weather report, so we'll see how we go this weekend. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I did have to say fudge the numbers quite significantly, but the ethos, the concept of the t-shirt, Rebecca Clow, that's the designer's name. The concept that Rebecca had when she designed it was that you'd be able to put your own spin on it and adapt it. She has also recently, I think it's already released, the Tolster tank pattern, so a tank, like a vest style version of the Tolster tee. Yeah, it's a nice simple knit. You get the details for a couple of different weights of yarn when you buy the Tolster tee pattern. I'm assuming that'll be the same for the Tolster tank, but I don't know. But yeah, like the pattern, highly recommend, even though I didn't obviously follow the pattern because it wouldn't have fitted me if I'd have followed the numbers with the gauge that I was working at. So yeah, so that's my first finished object as well. So let's move on to my other finished objects. Technically there are 9 objects, but I'm going to talk about them all together, and that is my bridesmaids outfits. Obviously I can't show you them physically because the bridesmaids have taken them with them, but I made 3 floor length, well ankle length, Calico skirts. So they're the tie-on historic inspired adjustable skirts, and I made those out of a crepe lining, a lace layer and a chiffon outer layer. They also have large pockets, so the girls were thrilled that they had pockets in their skirts. And I made 3 Ogden camis out of a satin and 3 lace tops as well. The bridesmaids are my 3 nieces, so 117, 211. They live in Bulgaria. I couldn't do any fittings. The first time they tried these outfits, almost the night before the wedding. So that was a bit of a moment. The girls loved them. There was instant twirling in the skirts, which is great. There were a couple of fitting issues, but not with the skirt and not with the camisoles, just with the lace tops. One was the twins straddle 2 sizes. One is very slightly bigger than the other by like an inch, maybe half an inch in some dimensions. So I ended up cutting out the larger size of the lace top, which meant that the slightly smaller twin, who was just below that size at the time of the wedding, had a little bit of room to grow, but it meant that the top was a little bit big on her, so we pinned that with safety pins to the straps of her camisole, and that was fine. The other fitting issue was I made an error with the 17-year-old's top when I cut it to the cropped length, in that I kind of forgot that she had boobs. So the front was a little bit shorter than anticipated. But I come from a family of problem solvers. My mum, my sister and I had all brought safety pins, so we were fine. And my sister actually safety pinned the side seams of the 17-year-old's top so that they were a bit more form-fitting, and that pulled the front in underneath the bust and completely resolved the issue that we had there. So that was good. They looked great. I'll obscure the girls' faces because they're not my children when I put the picture out for you. I don't feel comfortable putting them on the internet without consent from the parents. Once the oldest one is 18, if she's happy, then that's different. But for the time being, they're not my kids. I'm not putting them online. So yeah, so they all love the outfits. They've all talked a little bit about wearing them again for other things. 17-year-old has talked about using them for recital purposes. She's a violinist, and a very good violinist at that. She should be. She's been playing since she was itty bitty person, and her mum is also very good on the violin. So music is kind of important. The twins, one likes singing and one enjoys playing the drums. So they were learning the flute, but there was a change of staffing and teaching or something. So they've moved on to doing percussion. I know one of them loves the drums and the other one loves to sing. So music is important for them. Yeah, lots of twirling in the skirts. They were happy with them. And that's the main thing, really. And yeah, overall the fit was, on one of the twins, almost perfect. So I'm really pleased with that. So that's my finished objects. Which doesn't sound, when you think about it, oh, you made bridesmaids outfits and you made a t-shirt in 2 months. That doesn't sound like a huge amount until you start counting out the individual items. So yeah, 9 items for the bridesmaids outfits because it was 3 bridesmaids. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but everyone was impressed with them. When they looked good on the day, they looked good in the photos, the girls loved them, and they're talking about wearing them again. What more can you ask for, really? So let's move on to works in progress. Regular viewers will know that I took 4 projects with me on my honeymoon. I took this project, which is the one that I managed to finish, took a pair of socks, I took a knitted sweater project, and I took a project that at the moment I'm at the crochet stage, but will finally be a crochet and knit combined cardigan. So let's take a little look at how far I've got on those projects, and then we'll have a look at some of the things I picked up whilst I was on honeymoon. So let's start with the socks, because they've been on the needles for longest. So my Moulin Rouge project bag. Obviously it's not designed as a project bag, but hey, you've got legs all over it. It's got to be a sock project bag. Can't be anything else, really. So on here, with my gingerbread men needle stoppers, I'm making some socks in West Yorkshire Spinners Nutcracker yarn. I hope I've got the foot length right. I'm doing toe-up socks 2 at a time, as you can see, and I have worked a toe-up, heel, flap and gusset, which is why I'm not 100% certain that I've got the foot the right length. I don't think it's far off, so hopefully with a bit of stretch in the fabric, it should be fine. I haven't brave trying them on yet. Yeah, I think they're pretty much right. I mean, the fit of my socks normally a bit over hand length. So I'm now working on the leg. I'm working these with a rib pattern. So yeah, West Yorkshire Spinners Nutcracker colourway. This was a Christmas sock yarn, I believe last Christmas. Could have been the one before, but I think it was last Christmas, which I bought at my local yarn store Perlerow, which is just down the road from me, and luckily is not open on the days that I'm at work, because that would be dangerous. I don't start till the afternoon, and I can quite easily go past the yarn store on the way to work. So nutcracker socks. Before I went away on honeymoon, I hadn't got as far as putting in the gusset, or rather I was at the point of putting in the gusset. So I was working on that when we went away. So the heel turns went in on one sock whilst I was on honeymoon, and the other one after I got back. So progress has been made on those. I hopefully will get them finished this month. Hopefully, but we'll see. It might be next month. It shouldn't really take too long to knit socks, but I'm obviously working on other things as well, so they don't get daily attention, which some sock knitters will do. They'll be working on their projects each day. So there's no pattern as such for those socks. I am just working a rib. I did look up online heel flap and turn, heel flap and gusset, toe up guidelines, just to get some ideas of how to work it out and that kind of thing. But essentially the socks are being made up as I go. Next project, let's take a look at the knitted project. This project is a rather interesting construction. I have here an almost completed back of a sweater. So this is the Wellsbury pattern, Wellsbury pullover pattern, and it is by Amy Loudon, and Other Knits. So I'm working this in Holst Super Soft with a strand of drops mohair. You start working at the right back, and I've got some colour changes going down here, so just work the half of the back. Then you work the left back, and again you've got the colours changing, but in the reverse order. You're connecting the two backs together as you're knitting. And I'm now on the ribbing at the bottom of the back. So yeah, progress is good on that. It's a fairly quick knit, or it feels fairly quick when you're knitting it, because you're only knitting like half the back. And once I've done this, I'll be doing the same process for the front. So I'm enjoying that, because it's all stocking stitch. It's fairly straightforward knitting. It's good sort of TV knitting, good reading knitting. Not that I've been reading knitting recently, but yeah, it's good sort of, I don't need to pay attention to it, knitting. So yeah, hopefully that'll get done over the next couple of months to the point where I can actually wear it when the weather turns cold. Hopefully around October, November time I'll be wearing that. Yes, Leo, I am planning to finish it for the winter. That's the cat down there. So yeah, so that I'm enjoying. It's going to be nice and cosy. It's going to be slightly, hopefully, if I've got the sizing right, it's going to be slightly baggy on me, which should be good. Yes, I know, I'm giving you attention. The needy cat. And the final work in progress that I have to show you today, because it's the one that I've been working on most recently. I think I've shown you the Barragan wrap project that where I'd got to. I haven't worked on it since then. So this project is the Jethro, and I have on this needle minder, well, stitch minder, a whole bunch of crocheted granny squares. So I'll just take one off the end to show you. They are basic granny squares, and I'm doing four different orders of the colours, and it's all 4 colour ones. They're all greens. This is going to be a Jethro. So Jethro is by Tanis Fibre Arts, which is, just checking the name, Tanis Lavallee, Tanis Fibre Arts. So the front and the back are crocheted in the granny squares, and then you use your main colour, if you like, to crochet those all together to make the front and the back, and then you pick up and knit the sleeves and the ribbing and the button, what effectively would be a button band, if you decide to put buttons on. I may or may not, we'll see. So yeah, so I'm working on that. I'm roughly halfway through the crochet squares. I need 65, I believe I've got 32. So that is coming along quite nicely. It's not one that I can sit and watch things that I need to pay attention to because crochet. So I've been putting on things like America's Sweethearts, the Dallas Cowboys thing on the cheerleaders thing on Netflix, and Alexander Making of God, a documentary thing about Alexander the Great. So things that I don't need to have my eyes on the screen too much, because I can't crochet without looking at it. So yeah, so it's coming along nicely, and hopefully again in the next couple of months I'll get that done, ready to wear for the autumn winter. So let's move on to things that I picked up whilst I was on honeymoon. So a bit of stash acquisitions. I don't often do a stash acquisition section, and I didn't pick up a huge amount of stuff whilst I was away. We mostly picked up magnets, and my husband picked up a few postcards. But yeah, mostly magnets because we didn't take any with us, and cabin walls on a cruise ship are made of metal. So they're quite useful to have magnets to put like your tickets for excursions up on the wall and that sort of thing. So yeah, we picked up in our first port of call in Falmouth, we picked up some magnets there, and then I just picked some up for each, not quite for each port, but for each place that we went. So I have some from Falmouth, some from Cove in Republic of Ireland, some from Akureyri, and I don't think we picked any up in, no, we did pick some up in Reykjavik. I don't think we picked up any near Zifrodier, and then I have some from Greenland as well. So yeah, it was a good experience, the cruise. Some of the ports are amazing. If you ever get a chance to go on a cruise that takes in Greenland, do go. It's a really interesting place. So first port of call was Falmouth. So we just picked up bits that we'd forgotten because we know the shops in Falmouth. It's the UK, so it's fine. It's a handy port to have as your first port of call, actually, if you're sailing out of Southampton. They've got a very long and well-stocked high street with all your sort of Superdrug boots, that sort of stuff. So if you've forgotten things that you need for like toiletries and stuff, it's handy to pick things up there. And they've got a few touristy shops there as well, and a few cafes. So yeah, so that was good. We went up to Pendennis Castle, which overlooks the bay where the cruise ships stop. And yeah, that was good. That's one where you have to get, they use the lifeboats to bring you from the ship to the shore, because the cruise ships can't go into the harbour. I think it's not deep enough. So yeah, so that was a nice initial stop. Second stop was Cove, which used to be, well, it was originally called the Cove of Cork, and then it became Queensferry after a visit by Queen Victoria, and now it's reverted back to being called Cove, but it's using the Irish spelling rather than the English spelling, so COBH. And that is where the Titanic set sail for the last time. So there's a lot of Titanic stuff there. It's also where the Lusitania was sunk, so there's Lusitania stuff there. There's memorials to both of them, and they seem to be pairing them up. So they've got a Titanic memorial by the Lusitania Pier, and they've got a Lusitania memorial pretty close to the Titanic experience, which I would highly recommend taking a trip around if you're ever in Cove. It's really well done. They focus primarily on people that got off the Titanic or boarded the Titanic in Cove. And when you get your ticket, it has the name and age and class of one of the passengers that boarded in Cove. So you go through this exhibition with a guided tour that's, as I say, extremely well done. And when you get to the end and you're into the self-guided section, there are touchscreens where you can look up the person named on your ticket and find out if you survived or not. So yeah, it's well worth a visit. Next door to the Titanic experience in Cove, Cove is a lovely little town. It's got a cathedral, colourful houses, it's got a few tourist shops, got lots of cafes, but it is a small town. Next to the Titanic experience, there's a shop that is like a mixture of tourist tat and handcrafted stuff. So it's a nice little shop. If you're looking for your standard sort of magnets and bookmarks and that kind of thing, that's a good place to go. I did pick up one bookmark there that has the surname and information about the surname of some of my ancestors who are from County Cork, which is where Cove is. I don't know whether they were in Cork the city or just Cork the county, because the census is a little bit unclear about that. It just says Cork. It doesn't say City of Cork. It doesn't say County of Cork. So that's a few generations ago. So picked up a bookmark with information about their surname on. But I also, at my husband's insistence, because these were very cute and he thought I would like it, picked up this little sheep in a little flat cap. So he's clearly a boy. So he's called Seamus, and he will eventually have a little home in the craft room when I get it sorted and organised, and I can put out my other little yarny related ornament. I have a knitting mouse that my stepmother, I believe it was my stepmother, got me. I've had it for a few years, but she's been packed away for a while because I haven't got a suitable spot to put her on that's out of the cat's reach. So in amongst all my needle felted goodies and my other yarny related ornaments, he will be sitting up on display. So after Cove, we had a few days at sea to get to Iceland. So there's a couple of days at sea to get to Iceland. And our first port of call was Akureyri, which is the second largest city in Iceland, I believe. It's not big. It's really not big. But we went on an excursion there out to the Godafoss Falls, which is an extraordinary landmark. It's where the Icelanders, when they converted to Christianity, threw all their bits and pieces from their previous religion, or at least the Icelanders in that area. So from the Godafoss Falls, we also went to the Lava Labyrinth, where you just walk around going, yeah, we can see why Icelanders believe in trolls and elves. Because it's incredible architecture. Obviously, it's solidified volcanic lava, but it creates this kind of like canyons in a way, and structures, and some of them look like trolls and things that have been frozen, or places where trolls might live. So yeah, it's you can tell why they might actually be interested in that kind of part of faith and culture. So that was interesting to wander around. And we also went to some hot springs, which are not the sort of hot springs that you would bathe in. We did see somebody doing that on the drive back to the ship, just by the side of the road in a warm river. But the hot springs that we went to, there was a very strong smell of sulphur in the air, so we were actually quite glad for the rain, because that dampened it down and you couldn't smell it quite as much. But they look a little bit more like bubbling tar pits. So that was like an alien landscape, so that was a bit more unusual to be at. So that was an interesting excursion. From Akureyri, we went on to Isafjordur, which is a tiny little place, beautiful little place, that we just wandered around the town, had a look out at the landscape and the mountains and the sea. But yeah, that was nice, and it was warm as well. We went out with our coats on because it was windy, but we were taking layers off before too long. So yes, that was a nice little town, and from there it was on to Reykjavik. So in Reykjavik, we had lunch at an Icelandic restaurant. Not cheap, but the portions were huge, so you got value for money, and it was delicious. I had waffles with chicken, like buffalo chicken, and it had syrup on and kimchi coleslaw. So yeah, that was good. And he had an Icelandic lamb stew. What else did we do in Reykjavik? We wandered around the flea market for a while. We had noticed, but popping in and out of various bricks and mortar shops, as well as around the flea market, the respect that is put on hand knitted goods and handmade goods. The shops all had machine made and hand knitted sweaters, and the hand knits were appropriately priced, as far as I can tell, to respect the level of work that had gone into them. But there were loads of them everywhere. The flea market had lots of stalls where people were selling hand knitted or handmade goods. So there was one stall which had lots of wooden carved stuff. There was a stall of Ukrainian women who were all sat there knitting as they were manning the stall, and they had dolls that were made out of like ribbons that had been woven together. But yeah, the level of respect that was given to the hand knitted goods, you don't see anywhere else. I did a few of the ladies in the flea market try and sell me some of their hand knitted sweaters, but by that point I'd already found the Hand Knitting Association of Iceland store and bought some goodies. So I already had yarn to knit something myself in a similar style to what they were selling. So they were all very pleased that I bought yarn. So there was no sort of pressure to buy anything. But I bought myself some Plutalopi, and one of them is falling apart. See if I can flatten that back down again. Okay, so Plutalopi is an unspun Icelandic yarn. It's what they make the Lopapeysa sweaters out of, as far as I understand it. And in Iceland they sell yarn by weight. So I picked up a number of plates. It's not sold by the skein, it's sold in plates. A number of plates to knit myself in the style of a Lopapeysa. I can't call it a Lopi sweater technically because I'm not knitting it in Iceland. But my plan is for that to be the only difference. So I have 4 colours. This oatmeal colour will be my main colour. This colour I believe was called Midnight. It's like a black with flecks of colour in like reds and yellows and blues and things, which is probably not coming up on the screen very well, but it's very, very beautiful. And then I bought 2 blues that I can't remember the names of because, hey, they're not labelled. I think this was probably something like marine or sea foam or something. And this will be something to do with the sky, I would have thought. So I've got 1 plate of each of these 3 colours for my contrast colours. And I have a few of this. It was almost a kilo of yarn that I bought. So that should be more than enough yarn to knit a sweater. I'm planning on doing like a cardigan. And if I can work out how to do it, a zip front cardigan. I did also buy a book in Isafjordur on Lopi sweaters, so I will have some guidance there. It's an English language book. I don't speak Icelandic, so much less read it. This is the bag that the Hand Knitting Association of Iceland sells. That's their logo. So if you're ever in Reykjavik, head towards the famous church that looks like a space shuttle, which is up on a hill. The statue of Leif Erikson is there as well. So head for that church that looks like a space rocket. And as you head up the Rainbow Road, so just past the Rainbow Road on the left-hand side, you will see this logo on one of the shops. That is the shop for the Hand Knitting Association of Iceland. The front of the shop has stuff that's already been knitted for sale, so hand knit sweaters, that kind of thing. And then as you go through the shop, you get to a section with kits that I didn't pay too much attention to because I knew what I was looking for, and they looked like they were locally hand-dyed yarns in kits for scarves and hats and things. And then as you go through into the back, you get the more sort of standard traditional yarn shop type setup. I went straight to the Plutalopi. I didn't look at anything else because I knew that's what I wanted. I'd already checked the prices compared to the price in the UK, because there are a few people that you can get Plutalopi from in the UK, but it's half the price if you buy it in Iceland. So I knew I wanted to get it from Iceland. So yeah, so that was my I must buy item before I went. So yeah, that was Reykjavik. In the evening, before we set sail out of Reykjavik, they had a couple of Icelandic actors come onto the ship and do a couple of performances about the Icelandic sagas, which was very entertaining. And then we set sail into a beautiful sunset out of Reykjavik for another couple of days at sea to get to Greenland. The first port of call we had in Greenland was a place called Kotok, which is spelt like this. We went on a walking tour in Kotok, and the tour guide told us how to pronounce it. So yeah, Kotok, not how it looks at all. And that was a really interesting little walk around. The buildings in Iceland, in Greenland, are all different colours, and she's telling us how that originally that would have been for navigation of the town. So the blue buildings were shops, the red buildings were, what did she say they were? They were like community buildings. The yellow buildings were medical and social, so the social housing blocks in Kotok were yellow. And she's like, if you're ever in need of a doctor in Greenland, look for the big yellow building because that's likely to be the hospital. So it's a little bit less strict on who can colour their houses what these days. But yeah, essentially that was the main purpose of the colour houses. So that was an interesting town to walk around. We did have a little bit of a wander before we headed back to get the tenders, the lifeboats back to the ship. But the most of the walking around was on the tour. And from Kurtok we went on to Nantelek, which is spelled like that, which unfortunately I wasn't able to go ashore in Nantelek because I'd got poorly. So I was confined to my cabin for the day. But my husband was able to go ashore with some friends that we'd made on the ship and have a walk around, and that looks like a very beautiful town as well. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our excursion there, which would have taken us up close and personal, right up next to the icebergs. We did get to see the icebergs from the ship, and you could hear them squeaking as they're moving. We saw some splashes in the water that we think are probably dolphins. It might have been a whale, but we think they were probably dolphins because we could also hear the clicking that dolphins make. We saw a lot of dolphins coming out of Falmouth as well, actually. So that was our final port of call, and then it was 4 days at sea back to Southampton. So all in all, it was a good trip. I've got my souvenirs, Yarny souvenirs and other. But yeah, so that was what I've been up to and what I've been working on for June, July and August. So normal service should be resumed now that we're through the whole wedding process. So weekly videos for the time being. I do have a plan for the next few weeks, so we'll see if I actually stick to the plan or do something else. You're not going to know, I'll know. And then monthly roundups of what I've been working on should resume as well from here on out. So yeah, normal service is resumed now that I've got no more bridesmaids dresses to make. So thank you for spending some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. In the meantime, there's this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.